Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Africam show, brought to you by explore.org. My name is Russell Gerber, back again for another live show, checking out the live cameras around the country and seeing who we've got hanging around who might come on down for a drink of water. Thank you for joining us, everyone out there. Please do send us a message or any questions you might have on your mind about anything related to the bush, or if you just want to say hi, send through a howdy, tell us where you're from. Always fun to know where you're watching from. As I said, thank you for joining us at the beautiful Tau. We're starting off this afternoon. Really been loads of animals around at Tau and on this camera. Lots of diversity, plenty of different species, and of course still looking lusciously green. And for those of you joining us in the early morning, which many of you are in the USA and other parts of North and South America, good morning. Hope you're enjoying your cup of coffee, Cindy Drake. Good morning, Kathy Barton. And Aussie Jan's got her coffee as well. Now, if I'm not mistaken, it must be pretty late in the evening in Australia. If you are indeed in Australia, Aussie Jan. And who else have we got? Jutta, welcome. Thanks for joining us. And Bob in Kalamazoo. OMG23, welcome back, Bob. And Irene from Myrtle Beach, welcome. So we've got a couple of dirty elephant boys for you to kick off the show today. And as I said, those plains zebra, a nice herd of them hanging out in the background. And what looks like a very happy waterbuck bull in the background behind our elephant on the right side of your screen. He looks like he's laying down and taking a load off in the afternoon sun. And a couple of birds cruising around. Looks like we've got a grey heron. Who else is loitering around the Waterhole? We've had a few red-knobbed coots around. Couple of plovers, thickneys. I don't see any right now, but always nice to check out the bird life. It looks like some of our zebras have decided they don't want to be a part of the show and are moving off screen. Some form of actors' strike going on here. But some beautiful elephant bulls giving us a bit of a show this afternoon. You can see this old chap's got a lovely wide forehead. And often you get a small indentation around the middle of the forehead and the top of the trunk. And in many instances, the deeper that little indentation is often an indicator of age. As they get older, the indentation can get deeper and their face tends to get wider. So that looks like a very handsome bull. I suspect he's a little older than this chap on the right-hand side here. He's certainly got a bit more girth to him. And many people ask, is it the tusks that give them away, or can you use the tusks for aging elephants? And it's actually a very misleading way. Tusks very often come down to genetics rather than age. And some males or females are blessed with bigger tusks than others. So that's not always the best way to age them. But a really lovely sight we've got going on here. Of course, we're slowly heading into fall for our American viewers, or autumn for the rest of us. And so, of course, the days are getting a little shorter. And during the shows, we're starting to get this beautiful, soft golden light, which is always a treat. If any of you out there are photographers or aspiring videographers. Oh, it looks like you've got a ostrich male in the background there. Now, Cindy Drake mentioned she saw a single Cory bustard in the area earlier today. Now, that is certainly not a Cory bustard, that is an ostrich. But also a big African bird who spends a lot of time on the ground, the Cory bustard. I don't see him around right now, but she asks, do the Cory bustards mate for life? And it's a very good question. Many bird species do, Cindy. But Cory bustards, interestingly, engage in what is known as lek mating, which essentially means they're all polygynous. Essentially, one male displaying and then attracting several females, and he then mates with all of them. And those males tend to use regularly used sites. And the males tend to have their own displaying areas. So, in many ways, similar to the behavior of your very noisy elephant in the background here. But in many ways, similar to the birds of paradise in certain tropical parts of the world, where they have specific displaying areas in order to attract females. So I hope that answers your question. Our elephant's enjoying a lovely frolic in the water. And that's what all that noise was about. And it looks like we've got a single male wildebeest, blue wildebeest, laying down, and it looks like he's chewing the cud. Been a lot of boys on display this afternoon. A very fine example of an ostrich male. I can't see too clearly, but it certainly does resemble a African spoonbill, that bigger white bird you can see on camera there. Cattle egret in the background. Spur-winged goose. And the ever-present Egyptian geese. There you see our elephant bulls are still hanging about as well. as I say, you're starting to see that beautiful color coming through. And this elephant bull looks like he's trying to dig into the side of the bank there, perhaps create himself a new mud wallow. Yeah, it's really having a good time, that elephant. I do love watching them, as I'm sure many of you do out there as well. They are so full of character. Always something fun to see. I think a lot of people and wildlife lovers see a lot of human behavior in them, or I guess what is known as anthropomorphizing them, which can be dangerous, of course. There's our Egyptian goose, spur-winged goose, and our spoonbill. This is another spoonbill. There you can see, just as the bill comes out, that easily identifiable spoon-shaped bill. An Egyptian goose with her little goslings or ducklings, depending on who you ask, following in tow. Well, there you go. Aussie Jan tells us she is indeed watching with us, 1 a.m. on Wednesday morning. Now that is great commitment, Aussie Jan. And Cindy says, such a great camera, so much diversity. I absolutely agree, Cindy. In the summer here at Tau, there are often so many things to see, so many different species about. Whether it's the bigger mammals, or of course the feathered kind, as we see here. A great way to tick off some of your bird species around the world. I know it doesn't really count until you see it in person, but it's still really special to see some of these species, and of course the ones we've got right now on camera, fairly more common around the waterholes of southern Africa. But every now and again we get some real specials arriving on the scene. But of course the ostrich has got to be one of our favorites, certainly a very iconic African bird species. Now how about we throw out a little quiz question for you all today. Many of you will know, of course, the ostrich is the biggest bird on the planet that still exists, or an extant species. But let's have your thoughts out there in kilograms, or you can give it in pounds, up to you. How much do you think a fully grown ostrich weighs? How much do you think a fully grown ostrich weighs? Let me know your thoughts, and we'll get to the answer towards the end of the show. What I find so interesting about them too is You can sometimes hear ostriches calling to each other, mainly only when you're out on a walk. It sounds like a very low, almost rumbling sound. And when they do get agitated, they give out a really loud call that sounds almost like a lion roar. When you do hear it for the first time, it's quite remarkable. So if you can find a audio or sound bite of that on Google, go check it out. That ostrich call is quite alarming. If you're not sure what it is and you were taking a stroll through the wild African bush. But what beautiful sights here at Tau. Why don't we move on over to Rosie's. We've got ourselves a little Crake. Looks like he's digging in some elephant dung. Thankfully, elephant dung. But a very common behavior to see, especially towards the end of summer. This is, of course, a black crake. Got those long, beautiful red legs, yellow bill. You can't see it too clearly now, but a lovely red eye as well. But you often see the birds digging through some of the older elephant dung, looking for insects, potentially some dung beetles that might be loitering about. But it can be dirty business, digging through somebody's old discarded food. Of course, what's interesting about elephant dung, all dung is interesting if you are a safari guide. We don't like to admit it, but we are always interested in in poop. It's part of the job. But there's often a lot you can tell and read from looking at dung. And as you see, this particular crake digging through it's not just insects. Elephants don't have the best digestive systems, and so often there's fruit and other vegetation left over that is not very well digested. And if you put in the hard work, some species can get themselves a little extra pre-digested food. And before you say that's absolutely disgusting, let's not forget that one of the world's most expensive coffees is extracted through the excrement of a civet, if I'm not mistaken. A pretty horrendous practice, and certainly not coffee I've ever tried, but I hear it's supposed to be the best. So maybe this crake has got, was hoping for a elephant type coffee bean. But crakes tend to be mostly insectivorous, so that's what he'll be searching for right now. And now we just popped over to Olifants River. Looks like we've got a little bushbuck feeding in the reeds. And this looks like a young female. Of course, the males in this particular species do have horns, so it's a pretty easy way to tell them apart from each other. As we watch our little bushbuck eating, some of you sent through a couple of guesses on our ostrich weight. We got Cindy reckons around 330 pounds. That is a pretty big one, Cindy. Kathy, 150 to 300 pounds. That's a pretty good guess. OMG 23 is spot on. Mary Momo, pretty much spot on. Gwyn, 250 pounds. Yeah, we'll see. I'll let you know towards the end of the show. Really peaceful and quiet here at Riverfront River. Andy says, I prefer cheap coffee. Yeah, me too, Andy. Although, if any of you out there are having a civet excrement coffee this morning, I hope you're enjoying it. As we go back to Tau with our beautiful zebras taking a stroll past the Waterhole. Everyone looking very relaxed and calm. Of course, not too long ago, I think it was about a month ago now, 6 weeks, we had some real lion activity around the watering hole at Tau, with the pride hanging about and taking down a few meals, including a zebra or two, if my memory serves. There really is not much out there as beautiful as a zebra, although a big old waterbuck bull doesn't look too shabby either. That is a very handsome chap. He also seems like he's taken a load off and chewing the cud on this warm autumn afternoon. But to our Northern Hemisphere viewers, I suppose it's a happy spring to all of you. I think spring has just about sprung. As I said, as we head into the fall or autumn, and that, of course, often signifies a time that for the herbivores can be quite difficult, depending on how long the winter season is. Of course, our dry season is over the winter for these, or all the areas where our cameras are. And then we might still get some late rains, certainly as we head into May and June. For the most part, the rains have dried up almost entirely. And as you would guess, it all works in ebbs and flows. Our herbivores, both the browsers and the grazers, will all be in great condition now after a nice wet summer in certain spots and locations. So they've managed to put some good meat on their bones, and they're all strong, powerful, and very difficult to catch if you're a predator. And so this can be a tough time for the big cats and dogs. But as we get into the winter season, and many of these herbivores start to lose condition. It gets a little bit easier. It's still not easy, but gets a little bit easier for the predators. And that's the typical population dynamics you'd see here. Look at these two elephants. You would think that these are two entirely different species. But I'm sure the more astute of you out there will know that it's simply one is covered itself in some mud and sand. It has that typical African red color to it, whereas this fellow arriving now on site, gently saying hello to his pal. Though he does seem to have a few white spots around the ears. He looks a little cleaner than his friend. You can see a little bit of the red sand down the side of his face. He might have taken a swim in the not too distant past. They all look very relaxed. OMG 23 mentioned that the elephant tusks at Tembe seem larger than at Tau. Absolutely right, Bob. Tembe is an area, we actually spoke about it on one of our shows maybe a year ago now, where we were talking about the famous tuskers of Tembe. It is an area in southern Africa renowned for still having a number of large tuskers, and therefore the genes from those tuskers still going through many of the population in the area. So yeah, you tend to see much larger tusks there. And as you go into Botswana, of course, Tau being right on the border of Botswana with Africa, if you go into the northern parts of Botswana, you'll find elephants there. The tusks are smaller. It's all to do with genetics. People could argue as well that the historical hunting of big tusker elephants in the prime years of big safari hunts, around the turn of the century, late 1800s, early 1900s, that many of those big tuskers and their genes were eliminated from the gene pool. And that's potentially why we don't see many tuskers in and around Botswana these days. We're almost out of time, so I think it best if I give you the answer to our question. And the question today was, how heavy is the heaviest ostrich? And on average, maximum mass for an ostrich is around about 140 kilograms, which is huge. That's not really what we tend to see. Normally around about 100 to 110 kilograms. And that would be a big male. And for those of you who are guessing in pounds, that's the biggest ostrich recorded, around 350 pounds. So well done to all of you who guessed correctly. And that is a big old turkey leg, if ever there was one, for a bird of 150 pounds. But I wouldn't recommend trying to get one for your Thanksgiving. Well, folks, as always, thank you so much for joining us for the show. We've unfortunately run out of time today. What a lovely show we had with so many animals around at Tau. But do stay with the cameras. You never know what might come on down a little later in the afternoon. So keep your eye on there. But from all of us here in the studio, we'll be back again next week, same time and same place, for the Africam show, brought to you by explore.org. And I will see you all then next week. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody. Ciao for now.